Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a like, because what I'm about to reveal might change how you see the woman you love and the dynamics of your relationship forever. Imagine sitting across from someone you've trusted completely, someone you vowed to build a life with, only to feel a subtle shift in her gaze, something that doesn't add up. The laughter, the touch, even the way she looks at you. Something feels off. Most men dismiss this unease, chalking it up to stress or just a phase. But what if it's not? What if your intuition is screaming at you because she's hiding something far deeper? Guilt. Guilt that stems from a secret betrayal. The worst part is not just the act itself, it's the emotional maze she now navigates. A woman who cheats carries a complex cocktail of denial, shame, and fear. And the signs she leaves behind aren't always obvious. They're subtle, psychological breadcrumbs. Every gesture, every word, every moment of hesitation is a reflection of that inner turmoil. Here's the truth most men never realize. Guilt manifests in ways that almost feel invisible. It's in the way she overcompensates with kindness, how she suddenly becomes overly protective of her phone or conversations. It's in the tiny lies she tells to herself before she tells them to you. And yes, sometimes it's even in moments when she seems distant, cold, or unusually quiet. You might blame work, stress, or the children, but your gut knows better. And before you start thinking this is about paranoia, consider this. Men naturally detect shifts in energy and consistency, even when women are masters at hiding the truth. This isn't about accusing blindly. This is about understanding the hidden psychology behind her actions. Every man should recognize the invisible patterns of guilt before it escalates into something that breaks trust beyond repair. What you're about to hear isn't comfortable. It isn't the kind of advice anyone will whisper to you over drinks. But this is the knowledge that separates men who remain oblivious from men who regain clarity, power, and control over their own emotional reality. When a woman hides guilt after cheating, she doesn't confess. It leaks out through behavior, tone, and energy. The first hidden sign most men overlook is overcompensation. Suddenly, she becomes more affectionate, more attentive, and oddly enthusiastic about pleasing you. She cooks your favorite meals, compliments you more often, or randomly initiates intimacy after weeks of distance. On the surface, it looks like love returning, but underneath, it's an unconscious act of redemption, her way of silencing the guilt that eats her alive. She's not doing it for you. She's doing it to convince herself that she's still a good wife. Then comes the emotional volatility. Guilt makes people unpredictable. One moment she's warm and nostalgic, the next she's irritated by the smallest things. Her mood swings aren't hormonal, they're psychological turbulence. She's caught between shame and fear of exposure, and every conversation feels like walking a tightrope. You'll notice she gets defensive about harmless questions, as if you're probing too deep. That's her guilt whispering, he's getting close. Another subtle but powerful sign is her sudden obsession with privacy. She starts guarding her phone like it's a lifeline. Notifications are silenced, passwords change, and she takes calls in other rooms. She might even accuse you of being controlling or paranoid to divert attention from her own secrecy. Guilt always breeds projection. If she's hiding something, she'll make it seem like you're the one with trust issues. And then there's the rewriting of history. She begins reinterpreting old memories, minimizing the love you once shared. We've been distant for a long time, she might say, or we've had problems even before. This isn't honesty, it's justification. She's trying to rewrite the story to make her actions seem less wrong, less cruel. When someone carries guilt, they need a narrative that allows them to still look in the mirror. Men often think catching lies requires evidence. But guilt leaves fingerprints on emotions long before it shows up in facts. You can sense it in her eyes, the way she avoids holding your gaze too long, or the way her smile doesn't quite reach the corners like it used to. That's not coldness. That's the silent weight of guilt pressing on her conscience. What comes next will reveal the signs most men never connect, the psychological cracks that guilt leaves in a woman's body language, voice, and emotional rhythm. There's a moment, usually quiet and almost unnoticeable, when guilt starts to reshape her entire presence. You'll feel it before you can describe it. Her energy changes. That spark she once had around you dulls, replaced by a strange tension she can't hide. The third and most insidious sign is emotional disconnection disguised as busyness. She'll say she's tired, overwhelmed, or needs space to find herself. But what she's really doing is withdrawing emotionally to escape the mirror your love has become. Every time you show her genuine affection, it reminds her of the secret she's hiding. So she distances herself, not because she's fallen out of love, but because guilt makes closeness unbearable. Then comes the subtle disdain. It's confusing. You haven't done anything wrong, but suddenly she seems easily irritated by your habits, your tone, your silence. She begins to see your presence as pressure. Why? Because being near you amplifies her internal conflict. Guilt breeds irritation toward the innocent. It's easier to paint you as the problem than face what she's done. You'll hear her sighs more often, see her roll her eyes, or notice she doesn't laugh at your jokes anymore. It's not about boredom, it's the emotional armor of someone afraid of exposure. A powerful but rarely discussed sign is microaggression masked as independence. She'll start emphasizing her autonomy, doing things she never felt the need to assert before. I don't owe anyone explanations. I just need to live for myself for a while. These statements sound empowering, but they're rooted in avoidance. Guilt makes people crave distance, not to find freedom, but to silence the internal voice that keeps accusing them. And watch for her relationship with her own reflection. She might change how she dresses, the kind of attention she seeks, or even how often she looks at herself in the mirror. Sometimes she'll become overly critical, sometimes suddenly confident. Both are masks. She's trying to redefine her identity, to feel like someone new, someone who doesn't carry shame. What most men miss is that guilt doesn't just sit quietly inside someone, it transforms them. It leaks into tone, body language, and the rhythm of their affection. The woman you once knew is still there, but her guilt is now driving her emotions, rewriting her instincts, and pushing her to act out of fear rather than love. When guilt becomes unbearable, a woman's instinct isn't always confession, it's control. The next hidden sign is deflection through emotional manipulation. You'll notice that whenever conversations get too real or uncomfortable, she suddenly becomes the victim. If you express hurt or confusion, she flips the narrative. Why are you being so cold lately? Or, you've changed, you don't trust me anymore. This isn't coincidence, it's psychological redirection. Her subconscious goal is to shift the emotional burden back onto you, to make you question your reality while she hides behind moral camouflage. The fifth sign is false transparency, a tactic that feels honest but isn't. She'll share just enough to appear open, sprinkling details of her day, her friends, even her stress. But every story feels rehearsed. It's not real connection, it's performance. Guilt teaches liars to tell partial truths, stories that build trust without exposing risk. And most men, wanting peace over conflict, accept these surface-level gestures as reassurance. But underneath that calmness, her words don't carry emotional resonance. You'll feel it. The emotion doesn't match the content. Another giveaway is the sudden moralization of your relationship. She'll begin preaching about loyalty, respect, and trust. Ironically, the very values she's broken. This moral high ground isn't hypocrisy, it's projection. She needs to remind herself and convince you that she's still the kind of woman who values faithfulness. But these speeches are hollow echoes of the guilt she can't silence. Then there's the pattern of avoidance in intimacy. It's subtle at first. She'll start rejecting small touches or claiming she's just tired or stressed. But what she's really doing is detaching emotionally from moments that demand vulnerability. Intimacy exposes truth. It's hard to hide guilt when someone is that close. And sometimes the opposite happens. She becomes hypersexual, overcompensating with passion to distract both of you from the emotional distance she's created. Both are defense mechanisms of a guilty mind. The deepest truth is this: guilt is not just emotional, it's chemical. It shifts her tone, her sleep patterns, even her breathing around you. Her nervous system is in survival mode. She's not living freely anymore. She's managing an internal storm while trying to keep you from noticing the cracks. And soon, when that emotional weight becomes too heavy, it starts spilling out in the form of confessions disguised as what-ifs, random breakdowns, or misplaced anger. That's when you'll see the next layer, how guilt begins to crumble her composure and expose what she's been hiding. Guilt doesn't stay buried forever. It seeps through cracks in the mask. The next hidden sign is the accidental confession. It rarely comes as a full admission. Instead, it's wrapped in hypotheticals. Do you think people can make one mistake and still love someone? Or, would you forgive me if I ever hurt you? These aren't random questions. They're tests. She's gauging your response, trying to predict whether truth will destroy her or buy her sympathy. It's her way of releasing small doses of guilt without facing full accountability. The seventh sign is self-sabotage disguised as emotional breakdowns. When guilt becomes unbearable, she might unconsciously start creating conflict, picking fights, misinterpreting your tone, or storming off for reasons that don't make sense. These aren't random arguments, they're emotional smokescreens. Each fight gives her a temporary escape from guilt because anger feels easier than shame. Watch her reactions: tears that come too fast, apologies that sound rehearsed, or dramatic exits followed by sudden affection. That's not emotional authenticity. It's the cycle of guilt trying to reset itself. And then there's the retreat into silence. She stops arguing, stops explaining, stops engaging. It looks like peace, but it's detachment. When guilt becomes too heavy to carry, she starts disconnecting emotionally to protect herself from the constant fear of being found out. You'll sense her presence fading, not physically but emotionally. Conversations become shallow, moments together feel like acting. She's no longer there in the same way, and deep down, you feel it. You might notice her becoming strangely agreeable, saying, "You're right" to everything. That's not maturity, it's surrender. She's trying to keep the peace so you don't look too closely. Guilt turns truth into something terrifying, and silence becomes her only refuge. At this stage, men often face the most painful confusion. She's both distant and kind, both loving and unreachable. That contradiction is the essence of hidden guilt. It fractures her authenticity. She's living two emotional realities at once, one where she's your partner and one where she's her own secret keeper. But here's what most men never realize. Guilt doesn't just change her, it begins to change you. You start doubting your instincts, questioning your worth, and trying to fix something that isn't your fault. And that's where emotional damage begins to set in. Because guilt, left unspoken, doesn't just destroy the cheater, it quietly dismantles the one who still believes in love. The final part reveals how men can reclaim their clarity and emotional power when facing this truth, and how to walk away stronger, not bitter. There comes a point when you stop searching her eyes for the truth and start finding it within yourself. The hardest realization a man can face is that sometimes the woman you love most is the one teaching you what self-respect really means. When you sense guilt in her, when your gut whispers that something's off, you don't need proof, you need peace. Guilt leaves invisible fingerprints on love, but your intuition? It never lies. The final hidden sign isn't about her behavior, it's about your own transformation. When her words start feeling hollow, when you catch yourself trying to decode her affection, that's your soul reminding you something pure has been compromised. See, when a woman hides guilt, she's not just protecting her secret, she's protecting the version of herself she wants to believe still exists. She'll say she still loves you, and maybe a part of her does, but love cannot coexist with deception. Guilt builds walls where honesty once built bridges, and the more she hides, the more you'll start losing yourself in the chase to understand why. That's the trap guilt creates. It keeps both of you imprisoned, her in shame, you in confusion. But here's the truth that sets men free. You are not responsible for carrying someone else's conscience. You're responsible for protecting your own peace, your dignity, and your ability to love again without bitterness. The strongest men aren't the ones who expose every lie. They're the ones who can walk away with clarity, knowing that the truth always reveals itself in time. You don't need revenge. You need detachment. You don't need to break her down. You need to rebuild yourself. when you choose awareness over blindness, when you stop chasing closure and start chasing self-respect, guilt loses its power. Because guilt thrives in secrecy, but truth thrives in strength. Don't let her guilt become your identity. Let it be your awakening. If you're watching this right now, it means something inside you already knows. Don't ignore it. Listen to your instincts, protect your emotional boundaries, and remember, sometimes walking away isn't weakness, it's wisdom. So if this message hit home for you, don't just scroll away. Subscribe, leave a like, and share this with someone who needs clarity more than comfort. Because truth, no matter how painful, is the first step toward freedom.